Hello, and thank you for joining me in Annie Stories. In today's video, I'll be reading The Russian Grandmother's Wondertales by Louise Seymour Houghton. This is a collection of tales a grandmother had told her grandchild, broken down into many chapters. I hope you come and enjoy them with me. So without further ado, let us begin. The Russian Grandmother's Wondertales. Chapter 1. The Little Boy and the Grandmother. The little boy's father was starosta, that is, elder of the village, and the house the little boy lived in was grander than any other on whichever side of the long street you might look, for it had 2 rooms opening into the court, and all the other houses, even that of the pop who said Mass in the church on Sunday, had only 1. And this grand house was not crowded like the other houses, where the grandparents and the parents and all the married sons and their wives and children lived in the one room. The starosta was not a bolshak or head of a family of the old-fashioned sort. He did not consider that he had a right to rule his children like a despot and make them work for him, however old they might be, as many as the fathers in the village did. He even approved of young people setting up housekeeping by themselves. Therefore, though some of the older bolshaks shook their heads and said harm would come of it, when the little boy's elder brother married, he permitted him to have a house of his own. It was at the far end of the village. Thus, in the little boy's house, there were only the grandmother, the father and mother, the 3 daughters, the half-grown son, and the little boy. They were not at all crowded, you see, for they had 2 rooms. The cowherd woman and the 2 peasants who helped the starosta on the land slept, of course, in the stalls with the cattle under the shed that went around 3 sides of the court. In their warm sheepskin coats, made with the wool outside, they would not have been at all cold, even if the cows beside which they slept had not kept them warm. The family always slept warm too, for father, mother, and all the children slept on the great tile stove, which occupied the center of the larger room, and in this stove the fire never went entirely out. The grandmother did not sleep on this stove, however. The starosta greatly honored his old mother, and to her he gave the second room in the house for herself alone. She had a stove all to herself, and slept on it all alone, except when the little boy ran away from the great room and cuddled down beside his grandmother for the night. She did not tell him stories then, for night is the time for sleeping, and grandmother was tired after a long day in the fields. But on rainy days, when the starosta would not permit his old mother to do field work, grandmother would sit at home and spin, and then for happy times. It was growing cold weather, the harvests were all in, the rains had begun, and grandmother was sitting by the stove with her distaff and spindle and a basket of wool by her side. In came the little boy, settled himself in a snug place on the stove top, and said very coaxingly, "Tell me a story, little grandmamma." The grandmother ceased the song she had been singing, and answered, "Shall I tell you about the wolf that wanted to be a Roman?" "Oh yes, yes," exclaimed the little boy. "Tell me about the wolf." So the grandmother began. The Wolf as a Roman. Once upon a time, Isegrim, the wolf, sat in the forest and thought to himself, "Why should I be a wolf and go around devouring the other beasts? It would be much better for me to go out into the world. What if I should go to Rome? Yes, that's it. I will be a Roman." Off he set in the best of spirits, and on the way he met a sow. The sow bristled up in terror, but Isegrim cried out, "Don't be frightened, Gruntalin. I am done with Gruntalins forever. I am going to be a Roman." Not long after, he met a he-goat. The he-goat was greatly frightened when he saw Isegrim, but the wolf cried out, "Don't be frightened, Longbeard. I'm not bothering myself with Longbeards. I am going to be a Roman." Next he met an old mare. She was horribly frightened, but he quieted her, saying, "Don't be frightened, Skinny Bones. I don't waste my time with old jades like you. I am going to be a Roman." On went the fox for 2 whole days, when he began to feel a mighty hunger. So he turned back, and presently he came to the pasture where he had met the old mare. Now was the mare terrified. She quaked with fear, and well she might, for the wolf said to her, "Mare, I am going to devour you." "How dare you say so?" exclaimed the mare. "You told me you were a Roman." "Roman here or Roman there," snarled Isegrim. "I am going to gnaw your bones." "Very well," returned the mare. "If there is no help for it, come by and by, when I am plumper and juicier." So the wolf went on his way. Presently he met the he-goat. "Ho, Longbeard," cried he, "your time has come." "I dare you to touch me," replied the he-goat. "You are not a wolf, you are a Roman." "Roman here or Roman there," retorted the wolf. "I shall dine on you today." "What must be, must," replied the he-goat. "But since you are bound to eat me, just grant me life till the woods are green again." The wolf was beguiled, and on he went till he met the sow. "Listen to me, Gruntilin," said he. "I am going to make short work with you now." "You daren't do it," replied the sow. "You are no wolf, you are a noble Roman." "Roman here or Roman there," said the wolf. "I am bound to eat you." "Very well," replied the sow. "Since you insist, come another day when I am fatter." The wolf consented, and away he went to look for that mare again. "Listen now, Skinny Bones," said he. "You are to die on the spot." "If your mind is really made up," replied the mare, "I have nothing to say. But first, look at my left hind hoof, for my master had shod me the other day, and the smith marked my age upon the horseshoe. Read how old I am, and then you will be able to boast what an old mare you have eaten." The wolf thought this a fine plan, and he drew near. Then the mare raised her hoof and dealt Isegrim so smart a blow on the head that he ran off with a cracked crown, as fast as his heels could carry him. On the way he met the sow. "See here, Gruntilin," he said to her, "there is no escape this time." "Very well," replied the sow. "Since there is no help for it, just lead me around by the ear until I say goodbye to all my kith and kin." Isegrim seized her by the ear, when she set up so shrill and piteous a squealing that the swine all rushed to the spot from far and near, and falling upon cousin Isegrim, they almost tore him in pieces. Mangled and bleeding, he made his escape, and meeting the he-goat, he said, "Your time has come." "If that is the case," replied the he-goat, "just stand in the middle of the field with your mouth wide open, and my brothers and I will jump down your throat one after the other. Then you won't be hungry again for many a long day." This plan greatly pleased Isegrim, and he took his place in the middle of the field with his mouth wide open. Then all the he-goats ran against him, butting at him before and behind, till he could neither hear nor see, and it was all he could do to escape to the nearest wood. There he spied a cock, and said to him, "Now see here, Gaukeling, I am not to be fooled by you at any rate." The cock replied, "Just look at me once, how thin I am, and what big feathers I have. Why should you bother to pluck me? It would save you a world of trouble if I got up into this tree and just flew down your throat." Isegrim thought this a fine idea, so Gaukeling flew up into the tree. He hopped from branch to branch until he was in perfect safety, and then crowed loud and lustily to proclaim his escape. At this, the wolf sank into deep thought. My father lived comfortably, he said to himself, and was never a Roman. Neither should I have been one. It has served me right. My father was no expert in mare's paces, yet he lived in peace and happiness. Neither should I have been one. It has served me right. My father was no swine musician, but he lived well for all that. Neither should I have been one. It has served me right. My father never measured a field with he-goats, but he grew gray honorably for all that. Only one thing rankles, that this scoundrel up in the tree crows over me so. It would be none too good for me if someone should jump from behind the tree and knock me over the head. As luck would have it, a peasant was standing behind the tree, and he fetched the wolf a blow on the head with his axe. Then Isegrim cried out with his last breath, "Well, I vow, on this blessed day, one can't even talk to himself without being made sorry for it." The little boy was thoughtful for a few minutes. "Did you know that wolf, little grandma?" he asked at length. "No, not I," replied the grandmother. "It was my great-great-grandmother who knew him." Chapter 2. The Mother's Fête Day. It was the fête day of the little boy's mother, and she was dressed in the beautiful clothes that had been her mother's and her grandmother's festival clothes. Her gown, which was called her seraphim, was of a lovely light blue stuff, and on her head she wore a diadem of gold, all studded with pearls. Many of the village people came to kiss the babushka's hand and to bring her gifts, so that the house was quite crowded with people drinking coffee and talking loudly. When the babushka went to church to offer thanks, she put on her long fur-trimmed coat, and over that a thick wadded hug-me-tight. It was a cold day, and she was not too warmly clothed. But if her fête day had come in the heat of summer, she would have worn these just the same. The little boy went to church with his mother, and when they came back, he was very hungry, but the feast table was not yet spread, for the starosta and the older children were still in the fields pulling stubble. The grandmother was not in the fields, for the day was too cold, so the little boy went into her room. She had on her festival clothes in honor of the feast, but she was spinning as usual and humming a little song. "I'm so hungry, grandmother," said the little boy. "Would you spoil the feast by eating now?" asked the grandmother. "The best way is to forget all about being hungry till the feast begins." "How can I forget?" asked the little boy. "My mouth cries food." "If little grandmother puts a story in your ears, will your mouth cease crying?" asked the grandmother. "Oh yes, yes," cried the little boy. So grandmother told the story of the sick lion. Once upon a time, a lion lay sick in his den. Master Pets, the bear, called to pay his respects, whereupon the lion thus spoke. "Dear Bruin, tell me the honest truth. Is it or is it not very close in this den?" "Yes, indeed," replied Pets. "It does smell horribly here." Upon this, the lion flew into a rage and tore the bear into 1,000 pieces. Lampe, the hare, was standing near the door of the den and observed this mishap. Tremblingly, he approached the lion, who asked him, "Tell me, dear Lampe, is it not closed in my den?" "Oh dear no," replied the hare. "Why should it be closed? On the contrary, the air seems to me delightfully fresh." "You lie," retorted the lion, in high dudgeon. "It is not delightfully fresh. On the contrary, it is disgustingly closed." And he tore the hare limb from limb. Isegrim, the wolf, saw and heard all this, for he was standing near the door of the den. He stepped in and bowed low before the lion, who immediately put the same question to him. See here, Isegrim, tell me truly and honestly, is it closed in my den or not?" "Neither, sire," replied the obsequious wolf. "Oh, you good-for-nothing liar," replied the lion. "It must either be one or the other. Either it is closed or it is not." And he seized him and tore him to pieces. Renicky, the fox, was looking in from outside, and now he drew near to pay his respects. So the lion asked him, "See here, Master Renicky, do tell me now, is it closed in my den or not?" "Pardon me, august monarch," replied Renicky very humbly, "but by all I hold blessed, I am not able to tell you, for I have taken such a cold that, upon honor, I cannot smell. But I do hate a lie from the bottom of my heart." And the lion spared Renicky's life because he had such a clever wit. "Will the Baba and the little boy graciously come to supper?" asked the cowherd woman, opening the door. "The gracious babushka's feast is ready." So the little boy and his grandmother, whom they call the Baba in Russia, gaily went to the feast. End of chapter 2. Please go to the next video for chapter 3.